I may be too cool for school, but nobody's too cool for our next part. Welcome back! So, once you have downloaded and opened the EV3 software, you should be left with a screen that looks like this. This is the startup screen. This is where we will be building our programs. As I said before, this software is called the NX3-G. Just like with the acronym GUI, meaning Graphical User Interface, that we discussed earlier, the G in this acronym stands for graphical. This means that we will once again be using icons to create our program. Icons are like buttons in the computer, software buttons. Unlike these hardware buttons. For now, I'm going to call the icons buttons, so you don't have to keep remembering all of these complicated new words yet. Normally, in programming, these actions would be displayed as a long stretch of code in the very complex language that computers speak. But because you guys are new to this, these icons will make it much easier to understand what we are doing. Think of them as reusable phrases in the robot's language, like you would get when learning any new language. So the first thing you will need to do to begin programming is to name your very first program. Now, since this is your first program, your teacher's probably going to tell you to call it something boring like go or move. Not me! Call it whatever you like. What's in a name after all? You could call it Ra1 or Shah Rukh Khan or Krish. I'm going to call mine Dr. Drone is the Greatest. This may get confusing down the line if you give all of your programs fun names, so perhaps next time we'll think of something more boring and ordinary. So now you have the space where you will build your program. This is where we will be putting together your list of commands for Eve to follow. I am going to teach you to use the drag and drop tool this program works with. These buttons down here at the bottom of the screen each represent an action Eve can perform. When adding actions to the work area, you must first click the button for the action you want to add with your mouse, and then hold down the button on the mouse. You then drag the action across the screen by moving the mouse and drop it next to this starting point. The first thing we must do to build our first sequence is add a loop block. The loop block makes it so any actions in the sequence you want the robot to do more than once are repeated on a loop. The loop block can be found by clicking this orange tab at the bottom of the screen. These are all options you can add to your sequence, but there are more. These options are called the flow blocks. This button here with the two arrows in the shape of a circle represents the loop blocks. By clicking on this button with your mouse and holding the button down, we can drag the loop block using our mouse and drop it into the sequence. Make sure that the loop block is connected to the start block here, otherwise it will not work as part of the sequence of commands. You'll be able to tell if it is not connected properly as the block will appear faded like this. Once the block is connected, you can select that block by clicking on it. It should have a blue highlight like this around it if it is selected. If it is not, just click on it again and it will be selected. You should now be able to see this symbol on your loop block that looks like a number 8 on its side. This symbol means infinity. By selecting it, you are telling your sequence that you would like it to repeat over and over again until you stop the program, or your robot runs out of batteries. But you can also click on this symbol and select a number of loops instead from this drop-down menu. For now, we want the robot to keep repeating the program, so we will go with infinite loops. Now we must build our sequence we want the robot to loop in between these two halves of the loop block. So first, you should go to this green tab on the toolbar which contains the action blocks. These are the blocks that will make our robot move. Once you have clicked on the green button, you can now click on this button with the image of one of Eve's motors, the one in Eve's arm. This is the medium motor block. You can now drag it into the sequence between our looping blocks.
The motor is an electrical machine that converts electrical energy into mechanical energy by using electricity to make the sticking out section of the motor, known as the shaft, spin, and attaching an object to the shaft, such as a limb of a robot or a wheel, we are capable of causing the object to move or spin with the shaft.
These are all true facts. Thanks as I move.
An electric motor is the fundamental electromechanical energy converter that uses the forces of electricity, magnetism, angular momentum, and inertia, as well as electromagnetic theory.
Yeah. Understanding how electricity is used to power a motor isn't really important information right now. The majority of people have no idea. In fact, it's a good question to give an adult if you ever feel like making them look stupid. Not if they're an engineer, surely, or a scientist like you. I mean, you know how a motor works, right? Right? Sure. So once you have your first motor block inside the sequence, you can select which motor you want to control. In order to control the motor plugged into this port, you need to go to this box in the top right-hand corner of the block and select the letter for the output port your Everstorm's motor is connected to. Now on the motor block, you will see these 3 buttons. This is how you will be telling the robot how much to move its arm, for example, and for how long. This first tab controls the power level or speed at which Eve's arm will move, and here we have the number of rotations the motor will complete. For this program, we want the action to keep going until the program is switched off, so if you go to this drop box, you will see a menu of choices. These other choices we will explore later on, but for now we are going to select the on option. And there we have it. Your first program is ready to be sent from the computer to Eve's P-brick. Now, I know what you must be thinking. How is this a sequence of commands? It's only one action, not a sequence of actions. I might as well have a boring old regular machine. But be patient, my young friends. In future lessons, I will teach you how to create a full sequence of actions for Eve to follow. But for now, since we are keeping things easy, this is as good a place as any to get started. End of the section. Do those learning objectives. See you in a sec.